and Jeff Proctor. And in case this is your first Power Hour, I'm going to do a brief overview of how we kind of run this. So thank you to everybody who RSVP'd and submitted questions when they got their tickets. Based on those questions, we kind of come up with generalized topics and then questions in order to address all the questions that you had. So the first topic that we're going to talk about is the market and the economy. And my first question is for you, Jeff.
All right.
What's the number one economic factor you're seeing actually affecting your buyers right now? Aside from interest rates, the real obstacle that's stopping them from getting what they want.
Affordability is a big.
You need a microphone.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Aren't these microphones?
I think these are for the cameras. Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me? All right.
Yeah.
So I would say that, there's a lot of factors that go into this, right? I mean, obviously we have a lot of homeowners and people that are caught in 3%, sub 3% mortgages and delaying the move to get to a 6%, 6.5% mortgage. So there's a lot of factors. I was an economics major, so I think the micro and the macro side of the equation really plays into the mindset of every buyer, investor, developer across the board, right? We're up 40% in inflation. We have 6+% interest rates. The affordability, if you've seen, we do a lot in Elmhurst.
You're saying you got to talk louder.
You put the mic closer.
Gotcha, okay. So if you look at like some of the suburban markets that took off during COVID, I mean, the pricing, new construction was at 1.3, now we're talking 1.7, right? So affordability, inflation, interest rates, look at all factors of the economy. There's a lot of factors. We're kind of in a reverse economy, if you ask me right now, borderline stagflation. So you really have to, I mean, there's not just one factor, there's a ton of factors that are going into this market right now.
I just want to say one tip from our CEO. She always tells us, especially when it comes to affordability with buyers, leaning on your lender and focusing on your monthly payment versus the interest rate. Because a lot of times people are getting pre-approved and the first question they have is interest rate, and I always do my best to address it right away. Let's talk about what is your comfortable budget every single month and lean into that and then move from there. So thank you so much. Next question is for you, Matt. What's the biggest thing keeping sellers from listing or moving right now? And how are you encouraging your sellers to list?
Well, I work a few different markets, so like sellers downtown, the biggest thing that's the reason they can't sell is because they're poor and they can't get what they want, right? You know what I mean? Like the problem is like, for people out in the suburbs, he's talking 1.3 is now worth 1.7. You guys are living in La La Land. I mean, I got places that people paid $5 million for. It's worth like $1.5 million. So it's a problem. I got one of my own places worth $1 million less than I paid for it 3 years ago. So it's like that's life. So it's like how much can you afford to take a loss, right? And people that are rich, I mean I didn't grow up rich, but now I start to see rich people, and they don't like losing money. So the problem for them is that they just can't swallow the pill that their place is worth 20, 30, 40% less. I mean, there's a lot of places I'll go on a listing appointment. I'm like, what do you guys want? They're like, $3 million. They're like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know, 900,000. People are like, the other person told us $3 million. I'm like, yeah, I don't need another fucking 50 listings that are just gonna sit here without a showing. I mean, I got probably 12 to 13 listings right now that I haven't had a showing on this year, and I've had for maybe 5 or 6 years. Okay. And you guys just don't experience that.
Can I stop you?
Yeah.
All in the city, right? We're talking city.
Right, but we're talking about what's keeping the sellers moving, because it's going to get to my point on what's going to the burbs. Because these guys want to sell, but they can't afford to sell. And that's keeping inventory, that's hurting our markets in the city, which is then hurting markets out here, because I think it's also hurting buyers from coming to other parts of the country, and I think that's the problem. And a lot of my sellers who can't afford to sell are running that issue. And then the other sellers that run into, the other part of the market running into is that like sellers want to sell and they can get a good dollar for it, right? So we got like 2 different markets going on, but they don't know where to go because the place they want to go to is too expensive, right? So like now they made a lot of money, but they can't afford to go to the next place. And then there's nothing on the market for where they want to go. So like we're kind of in like this like weird spot in the fact that like there's not a lot of inventory in one market. There's too much inventory in another market. Nobody wants to move to one market, but everybody wants to go to the other market. So everybody's kind of like staying put. And I think like the biggest problem I've seen this year is just like there's not good quality inventory in the highly desired areas. There's a ton of inventory in like the shitty areas that nobody wants to move to, but there's no inventory in the areas that people want to move to. And that's what my sellers are running into issues on. And that's one of the main reasons what's either keeping them selling is affordability of like not being able to afford to sell for what they want, and then keeping them from going to the next place because there's nothing in the market they want to go to.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into Lauren's question about how are you getting creative in finding people listings?
All right, well, I might ruffle some feathers because I saw Matt's video recently, but we do have a ton of pocket listings and private listings. I think everyone calls them something different. But the net is that you're right, a lot of these sellers want $5 million when maybe I think their house is worth $3, but out in the suburbs they paid $1.5 for it. So they're still making money typically in the burbs, but maybe not enough money to make them move. So sometimes people open the door just a little bit and they say, I really like spending time in Naples, or oh, I saw your development, how much are those condos worth, or something that opens the opportunity to have a conversation about selling, and everyone has a make me move price. So sometimes these people are saying, hey, yeah, I'd sell my house for $2 million if I got it. It might be crazy, but that's my number. I store that. And you open it up to a private network there. So you know the pricing. If they say $2 million, you know it's a 1.3 to 1.5 house. Open it up and test the market. It's the perfect place to test the market without accruing market time. And then what we're seeing with a lot of these people is they show it to 5, 6, 7, 10 people. Everyone is saying, your house is great, but it's not worth $2 million. Will you sell it for 1.5? I'd consider it. And all of a sudden they get more motivated and they start listening to the market as opposed to needing to listen to us saying, you're smoking crack, your house isn't worth $2 million. Once everyone else says it, they get more motivated. So we are seeing a ton of that, and it's really working in the burbs. I would say though, to your point in your video, I don't know if anyone saw it, but someone sent it to me, Matt, and I agree with everything he says. If you're selling a $500,000 place and it's worth $500,000, the best way to get the most amount of money is to put it on the market and expose it to the most amount of people, because you might get $575, you might get $485, you don't know until it goes on the market. But if as an agent, you know the house is worth $1 million and they want $2 million, sometimes it's a perfect place to test the market and teach your clients without accruing market time. So we're seeing a lot of that in the burbs.
I'm surprised you don't have a response to that.
I mean, I do.
Yeah, do it. I want to hear what this is about.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Well, you also have to understand too that, you know, you go back to this pocket listing. So we just contracted a 2.3 off market. Nobody knows about it, right? We just sold another client's house for 1.3. Nobody knows about it. These are properties that have been on the market, couldn't sell. Maybe it was the agent, maybe it was the marketing, maybe it was the pricing, who knows, right? We're finding 40% of our stuff off the market. I mean, you got to do your legwork to find these other opportunities. You got to reach out to Matt or Lauren and say, hey, what do you have? I mean, Lauren and I, we showed a property in Elmhurst that nobody knows about, knows that last year. $7 million. I mean, the guy's brand new construction. It's incredibly well done, but it's $7 million and nobody will ever know about it. So
And
you
can
have
I-
to do
can
your
I
due
stop you
diligence.
there?
I mean, that was a big number, but that was a number he said,
Worked.
if you had to sell, what would you sell for? He's like, well, I got 7
Right.
into it. So, I mean, she contacted me, I got him in. You really have to do a lot of legwork, but sorry to cut you off, Matt.
Oh, no, I mean, I think pocket listings, there's a time and a place for them. Do 10% of places, like I pull a lot of stuff off at this time of year because I want to accrue market time during the holidays. We got a tenant in there. There are a bunch of like drug addicts in there. We don't want to show it with them in there. Like we sell a lot of stuff in Wrigleyville. It's like a bunch of kids. Like, so we want to wait. We'll throw that in the pockets. Okay. Somebody wants a number that's $2 million when it's worth $1 million. Sure. But I still disagree, especially with a couple of things you just said. It's like, hey, we were the only ones that knew about it. When I went downtown and started like doing what I do downtown, pocket listings were a huge thing. They were. And everybody did these 500,000 to 700,000. And then what happened was I got all the listings, and then we drove up all the pricing because they went on the open market. And now pocket listings aren't really that big of a deal downtown. And it's the same thing I see in the suburbs, and I believe we will spearhead the change on that. I'm sorry to say it, but when you say that you don't know about something, and I saw something close the other day, and I had to buy it, it was like, I would have given $300,000 more had I known that. When that seller finds it out through the grapevine, Do you think he's gonna be okay with that? Because I said earlier that one thing I've realized that rich people like money. It's crazy. They just love it. And when somebody sees that that could have sold, and it was only because the two of you guys knew about it, nobody else knew about it, I just think that's a really bad idea. And you guys are gonna end up getting sued over it. People are gonna tell me, it's not gonna happen, we're fucking great, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, on my listing agreements, I put we gave out 2.5% buyer's agreements, and the seller signed off on it. We got a contract to sign off on it. We got a $1 billion lawsuit. So the fact is when these guys go out to dinner and they find out that they just undersold the place because Jill down the street would have given more money, I disagree with it. I think the pocket listing game is dirty. I do think that in some cases it's okay, but I think the way the brokers here really hold the inventory from the market to try to either do it in-house or do it broker to broker, I think is bad business. And I think that's going to change because the more people see that it sells and that I have a buyer that would have gave them more money, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna let it be known. I'll put it out there, like we would have gave you $300,000 more for that. How much longer is that gonna last for when you see that? What do you think is going to happen when that seller finds out they could have got more money because I had somebody that would have gave it to them? I don't like under the radar stuff. I don't like colluding, and I feel like there's a lot of colluding in these markets more than I see in the city. And that's how it was when I went down to the city. Like a lot of people were like that. They held it back. They thought it was cool, and we kind of went in there and did what we did. And I'm just saying, I know this is gonna, like, you guys aren't happy about me saying it, but I'm just saying that I do think it's a bad idea to do it that way.
I say something?
Let me go back to my two deals here.
You're missing a big piece of
You just accused me
it.
of colluding and getting sued, so. I don't think that's gonna happen.
I think us.
The one deal was at $1,290,000 is the contracted price. They were on the market for 4 months. Couldn't sell. Agent put their house on the market in direct competition with them. They got upset. They took it off. They had a contract on it for $125,000. We got them $129,000. So they did better, didn't they? The other deal is completely new construction. The developer hasn't even closed on the land yet, and we knew about it. So it's not colluding. It's not keeping it private. It's knowing who to talk to, when to talk to them, and finding the deals for your clients. It has zero to do with collusion, but thank you.
Wait, I have to say something too. We are also, I think the most important piece of the puzzle is explaining to your sellers the pros and cons of keeping it a little more quiet and exposing it to the masses. If you don't know how to explain it, you're gonna get sued, 1,000%. But if you say, these are your options, Mr. Seller, you can keep it back, keep privacy. The risk there is you're leaving money on the table and you're maybe not getting everything you want and then some. If that's what you want to do, I want to make sure you're understanding there's a risk to doing that. On the flip side, if we go balls to the wall and put it on the MLS, you're risking no one responding at your price, and you have a tiny little window to get your price, your terms, or else you're going to chase the market down because this market is moving so quickly. If the pricing is wrong, you're going to know it quick, and everyone's going to walk in thinking there's something wrong with it. You decide how you want to handle it. I'll explain to you, here's the risks to both. And we're not keeping anything back unless our sellers are asking us, please give me privacy. It is worth a couple hundred, maybe even $500,000 to me to keep this private. We don't want anyone to know about it. Money is not the driving factor. We understand that the chance of us getting the most money is exposing it to the most amount of people. And
You want to counter.
and we're okay with that. That's when we're keeping them completely quiet. It's when the seller tells us to.
Yeah, and again, 10% of the time, I'm not denying what you're saying makes sense. I'm not saying I'm against anything you said. Jeff brought up great points. You bring up good points in that. What I'm saying, and I've been studying this now for a couple of years because we know we were going to open up an office, so I'm a slow learner, so I like to study and sit back and really take it in. And I follow a lot of realtors online, and in their stories, you're like, we have this, we're not going to tell anybody else about this, and then it sells. And I'm saying that is a big portion of the market that I see happen around here, and I think that's a bad idea. I'm not saying the two of you are the ones that are doing that, but I'm saying I see a lot of it online, and I could probably name 5 examples off the top of my head where I'm like, well, I could have got that guy 200,000 more. Oh, I had somebody that would have given another 150,000 more. And I think over time, that's going to come out more. That's going to be a problem. And nowadays with the internet and social media, I think the transparency of what needs to get out there has to be big. Because what people don't realize, people hate us. Like, people hate realtors. Like, they really do. Like, we get all think people like us to push your social media stuff on there. Like, we're like the gum on people's shoe, okay? Like, we're like a 1980s used car salesman to a lot of people. Like, I don't know, like go online on TikTok and a realtor's comment, just read the comments people write, okay? And then, you'll understand the way people feel about it. Well, you'd think, but you know, I like to think people like me too, but they don't. Okay, but like my point is that like the more open and transparent we are about our business, the more the general public will like us. One of the main things I always read about that sellers and people in general don't like about us is the lack of transparency and just the blatant lies that we do out there. I'm not accusing you of that. I'm going to be clear on that. These guys are good agents. I think they do a really good job. And I'm saying, like, in general, we as realtors as a whole need to try to do better and be more transparent about what we do, because the only way that people are going to hold us to a higher standard is if we hold ourselves to a higher standard. And if we don't, nobody else is going to.
I think the coolest thing about panels like this are there's 3 very successful top producing agents that all have different opinions. So I really love the banter and keep it going because it's also entertaining, please. Okay, we're gonna transition into,
We're not done with that.
into the next topic, which
That is
is
not
comparing
done.
markets. Matt, you mentioned, I mean, you're newer to the Western suburb market, physically at least. How are you keeping track of these trends going on within the city? Because even city to city neighborhood markets are very different. And then also keeping track of these micro trends going on within the suburbs.
You know, I think everything is interconnected the way the markets work, right? You know, so one of the things you mentioned earlier too about how properties went up in value, et cetera. And one thing I noticed, because like we sell like the most downtown Chicago, right? So like we can't give this shit away. And I was like, well, who's my buyer, right? Don't you guys ask this when you get a list? Who's my buyer? Well, for a lot of high-end, high-rise condos, the buyers are people from Hinsdale, Oak Brook, Elmhurst. They got a lot of money, or the North Shore, and they buy, you know, $1 to $3 million place downtown. They get a place in Florida, right? And one thing we started seeing is that, like, well, you know, these people that want to sell in the suburbs, they could get a ton of money, but they were too scared to come downtown because you read the news, you can get killed, right? And then they saw that place in Florida went from $1 million go to $4 million. So now they're like, well, I can't get 2. I can either get 1 or nothing, right? So what do these people do? Is they stay put. So it's a big trend I've been studying, because now, and I've been saying for a while that, you know, cities, when the pandemic started, that cities would burn the ground and suburbs ride from it would just reign supreme. And I said, when we're going to start noticing the market's going to shift is when the warmer climate states start to fall, right? So what are we seeing right now? Now, Florida market's dropping, Texas and Austin, right? Austin was the biggest seller's market in the country right now. There's double the amount of sellers than there are buyers. It's the biggest buyer's market in the country. Idaho, the Carolinas, they're all starting to drop a little bit. And people are like, the market's kind of coming down. It's like, well, you know, things are actually taking a little bit to sell. And at the same time, we're starting to see cities kind of rise for the ashes, right? There's a big push for the cities to come back, et cetera. So what I'm watching is that as the warm climates soften up, that's loosening up inventory, because now the North Shore and Western Burbs, they can now sell to go down, you know, down to Florida. And at the same time, the more the city gets cleaned up, the more they feel comfortable. Because they're, you know, we have a lot of clients that come downtown from here, and they're like, you know what? I heard I was going to get killed if I walked down, and you know, we went to Maple and Ash, and fuck, it was pretty nice. You know, I feel pretty good about it. I think I'm
not dead. I'm not
right?
dead.
You know, it's yeah, but it's I say the perception's worse than the reality. Once people start realizing that, like, you know, the reality is fine, it's making the market better, and that matters here. Because what people aren't watching is that, like, in 2 to 3 years from now, like, the suburbs is going to be slow, okay? Like, as much as people tell me it's not going to happen, people also tell me Florida and Austin were untouchable, and look at them now, right? Like, you can't give shit away. And, like, so, like, the big thing you have to watch for is the trends. And, like, for suburb agents, I always say, is like, you guys have been living in, like, a different reality lately. Like, you get a listing, it sells in a day. When's the last time you had a listing that sold in, like, 3 years, right? Like, or something like that. So it's like, you have to realize and prepare mentally for it. So when you talk about what's going to get your sellers to move over here, if I had a lot of seller inventory over here, I'd be like, this is it. This is 05. This is 05, 06 for you. This ain't, you're never going to see as good as it. You never know as good as it is until you look back and it's like, wow, that was the best thing I ever had. Like, that's where we're at right now, in my opinion. I know we're not building more housing. I know we're not doing stuff. You can give me all the arguments you want, but what I can tell you right now is the same argument happened in Florida and Texas, and they're literally the ones you want to watch. And I study those markets to kind of predict where our trends are going in the future. And to show that I was right on this, is I was on the news a shit ton last year in 24. Remember in the fall after an election, which I predicted would be a bad market. I said that 25 would be the best market since 22, and everybody said I was wrong, and I yelled at all the newscasters. I said, if I'm right on this, you bring me back on constantly. What happened so far this year for sales in Chicago? 25 is the best market since 22. And why is that? A big another reason we're watching is the boomerang buyers, right? So a lot of people moved away for political reasons, right? They had a kid, and their parents are over in Hinsdale, and you know, they're like, hey, I want to move to Florida, I want to mask, and like, I don't know, Florida people are kind of weird, there's fucking hurricanes, I want to come back and help, you know, my kids come back. And so now we're seeing all these people boomerang back to the Midwest and come back to where they came from, which is also helping the buyer demand come in the market. But that's only going to last another year or two of people kind of going away. So whenever I look at markets, I look at trends from not today, not next year, but 2, 5, 10, 12 years away to understand how to alter my business model for it.
So you probably learn a lot from working with so many clients. Could you just rattle off a couple places that agents in the room could go to study and understand these trends more, besides your podcast?
I'm sure like just you guys, I read Wall Street Journal, Cranes. I subscribe to all like the Chinese newspapers as well, and I get them translated. Like there's like an app for it. Well, because if a lot of Chinese people are coming to Chicago, I know the market's gonna be really good. Like that market's been dead. So I study what's happening in India too, because their real estate happens to ours. I study what's happening in Europe. And then I subscribe to The Real Deal in all the big cities. I subscribe to Chicago Agent in all the big cities. I subscribe to all the #1 agents like newsletters in all the different cities. So every day what I do is I just pretty much glance at headlines. And I read at it and I see what they're doing. And if I see something that's crazy, reach out to the guy. I'm like, why is this happening in your market? What do you think's happening? And I'm like, okay, well that could affect me 2 years from now, right? New York's always 18 to 24 months ahead of Chicago. So if something's happening there, I understand that that's probably gonna be a trend that's gonna happen here. So.
I like that. Altos Research has done a really good job. There's two things, right? Knowledge and cash, they're both king, right? So if you have the knowledge of the markets, and I love the Chinese perspective because I never really looked into that. And I think the whole part about this panel is a little bit of debate, right? So if we do go back to 05, and we do look at 05, we had 5x, maybe 6x more inventory than we do today. That's a huge factor, right? So let's go back to the mortgage crisis. That's one big factor that is not occurring today. That is what decimated the market. Not to mention we had 5 to 6 more times inventory in the market. And then you started getting into condos and associations, and you can't get financing because you got too many rentals, and now everybody's going foreclosures because they can't rent their place out. There were so many more factors that came into that market back then. Today, we're dealing with an inventory issue, right? So going to your point, Matt, is I completely see the Florida markets, the Carolina markets, the Texas markets, the Arizona markets, because state income tax, the state tax privilege over there, they're going down, but they're up 100%. They're down 40% maybe, but you're still up 100% off of that, so really you're up 60%. I think those are more speculative markets. If we get back to our Chicago market, right? River North, Gold Coast, decimated. Palmolive's down at $500 a foot, used to be at $1,200 a foot. Trump was once at $1,200 a foot, now it's at maybe $500 a foot? Maybe. So, I mean, those markets are getting hurt, but what are their alternatives, right? Those people are they're moving out of the core, and they're going to Lincoln Park, they're going to Roscoe Village, they're going to Bucktown, they're going to safe havens, right? Or they're going to the suburbs. So without the amount of inventory in the market, and the demand is far exceeding any of the supply, guess what? We're still gonna have this market for a number of years because we have not hit the housing starts coming off the mortgage crisis 10 years ago. We will continue not to see the housing starts. We have no condo development, it's all apartments. Like, look at all the factors and really try to put that into your equation in terms of educating your client and then making the right decision.
I'm going to jump in and say, I think a piece of this conversation that's missing is some of these, is this not on? Oh, sorry, I'm going to jump in and say, I think a piece of this conversation that's missing in the markets you're talking about, we have a couple of those markets on the Don McKenna group too, and there's a big difference between a secondary home market and a primary home market, and a need to buy buyer and a want to buy buyer. I sell in a market where these people need a house, and I have to say, like, this market is not bananas relative to what we've seen. It's absolutely softened because there's not as many need to buy buyers. There's people that want to buy, there's people that want one more garage door, there's people that want one more bedroom, one more bathroom, but they're at a 2.5% or 3% interest rate. That is the want to buy buyer. As soon as they jump in the market, it's gonna be crazy. Right now, all we have are the need to buy buyers, and in Florida, when the market softens, it's because it's a second home for most of these people, and they're like, oh, if I feel like this market is inflated by 30%, I'm not buying now. In Hinsdale and Oak Brook and Western Springs, they need to put their kids in schools, they need to live somewhere, they swallow it because this is the market and that's what's gonna keep it moving. Right now, we really have like necessity buyers as opposed to like, oh, I wanna move. All those people are still sitting on the sidelines.
while you have the mic, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't do city, right? You're suburb specific?
Personally, I do not. How our team works is we're very territory specific. So
Okay.
we have a team in the city, but I'm not going to pretend to know about the city. I hear what they have to say about it, and I listen to my clients who are moving from the city, but
Yeah, not trying to, I was just
No,
confirming
no,
because
I-
this question is
Can I
suburb
just
specific.
say one thing about that, just harping on that, is that, everybody always brings up this inventory crisis. And for some reason, there's not a single article, there's nothing that talks about this. Because up until 2020, and I've been doing this 20 years, you guys have been doing this for a long time, I've never in my life heard of an inventory crisis, not once. It's never come across my plate, I've never heard of it, I've never said we don't have enough inventory. It's never really been a big problem. And people always blame all these other things while it's happening. It's like, I think it's funny because we're creating less people. That's like the biggest problem in America right now is we're not producing enough people. Okay, so we've actually lost people. Okay, we haven't gotten more housing, we haven't really gotten less housing. So why is this inventory problem? And I think what people don't understand is that there's been a displacement of how people lived. And that's where the big problem is. When you're talking about the need to buy and like have to buy buyers, the problem is like, this is the beginning of where the suburbs are going to start softening. Now, I'm not saying today, not next year, but the next 2, 5. I remember when I got into business in 06 and 07, I didn't want to sell in the suburbs because like the first guy didn't sell it, the second guy didn't sell it, like the fourth guy sold it, right? I mean, you'd get a house, I had buddies that bought in Hinsdale in 18 and 19, places were on the market for $2 million, they all were offering 1, 2, 1, 3, and they're getting them. They're just getting them. It's like, put a place for $2 million up today, you're not getting it for 1.3, 1.2 million. So my point is that what people don't understand is that like, there's not an inventory problem. There's been a change of how people are living. And that is going to change. I'm a big history buff, huge history buff. And one thing I've known since the dawn of time is that humans have gotten together with humans, and they've created these things called cities, okay? And for the last 4.5 to 5 years, people have been saying cities aren't going to exist anymore, we're not going to live around each other anymore, we're all going to live in caves in the middle of Iowa and eat Applebee's, and that's going to be life. And that's how it's going to be from here on out. And my point is that one of the reasons why we're seeing a lot of these inventory crises is people went to these types of places. People moved out of cities. It's not just Chicago, it's all big cities in the country where this has happened to. And my point is that over time, things will go back to normal. Like, there was a company called WeWork, if anybody's ever heard of this. WeWork is one of the most highly evaluated companies in the world at one point because people want to be around people and work together. And then all of a sudden the pandemic happened and people are like, nobody wants to work together, everyone wants to work at home in their underwear, and that's how life's going to be. That's it from now on, for forever. I'm just not drinking that Kool-Aid. And what I think is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, especially with AI coming out, that's taking people's jobs, where people are no more longer relevant. The only way to be relevant and have a job and survive for the rest of your life is to be seen and be present. Because if somebody likes you, they're going to not want to fire you as much. Okay? And that's going to get people to go back to offices. I'm a big believer that offices are coming back. I know people think I'm crazy. You can say what you want to say, but I'm seeing it firsthand. I'm seeing a lot of people want to come back. Are some companies never going to come back? Absolutely. But I do think that the displacement of people is going to change, and that's what I think is going to wipe out the inventory crisis. This is just my personal take.
okay, that's back. Offices are back. That's what's moving our suburban market. Relo buyers are a huge piece of the market. So I don't know if you're saying people...
They're 49% vacant right now in Chicago.
I understand, but we had 0 relocation buyers for 4 years.
Right.
So my point to it, that is moving the market. I think it's slowly moving back, but that, to your point, all these markets are interconnected, so I think that moves all of these markets. But I think that's already happening in the suburban market.
There is an inventory issue.
Well, you got to really think about it, right? Go back to the 07, right? I mean, I lived in Wicker Park, and people used to move over to California in South and North Avenue, and they were like, "Oh, I'm in West Wicker Park." No, you're in Humboldt Park. So, in the end of the day, let's just be honest. So, essentially, the searches in 07, they started like this, and then now today we're like this. We're in a very small. You go to Hinsdale. I want to be south of Ogden. I want to be in my pocket. I want to be
I don't know what's happening, I'm sorry.
I want to be 2 to 3 blocks away from the town, right? Those searches, it's not so speculative anymore. So when you take that huge, wide open map and you concentrate it down to 4 blocks, there is an inventory issue. And it will continue to be an inventory issue. K-Rock's nodding his head, he agrees with me. No, but I think buyers got smart, right? They got smart. In 07, they were like, oh, I can buy it, I can make $100,000 tomorrow. I can finance it with a stated income loan. I can get a $100,000 credit at closing. I can foreclose in 6 months and keep the $100,000. That was a fictional market. It was a fictional lending market. Everything was bad about that market. And now today, we really have buyers from the city, and I do the suburbs, and they're very concentrated in their search. So they're not going to Humboldt Park when they want to be in Wicker Park, right? They're not speculating on the area. So when we start to look at that, there is an inventory crisis. Now, let's break it down even further, right? Let's look at the quality of inventory that's in the market. I can go in Lincoln Park, in the heart of Lincoln Park right now, and I can look at 5 $4 million homes. I can look at 10 $4 million homes right now in Lincoln Park. I would say 2 of those are quality builds. So let's get back to the basics here and really educate our clients in terms of, no, you're not buying this one for $4 million because it's gonna turn to shit in another 5 years because it's already a poor quality build. I would go over here to this developer because of X, Y, and Z. So to a certain extent, I agree with you. I guess, this is a debate, right? But there is a huge inventory issue, Hinsdale especially,
Everyone
Elmhurst. Look at all the factors. I live in Elmhurst, you live in Hinsdale. The reason why Elmhurst is skyrocketed in price is because we feed off of Hinsdale. Everything in Hinsdale is $400,000 to $500,000 more for the same exact product. So people look at Hinsdale and go, well, I can't afford it here. I'm gonna go to Elmhurst. Well, I can't afford it there. I'm gonna go to Glen Ellen. I can't afford it there. I'm gonna go to Downers. They go to those 4 locations. Why? Because they have kids and they want to get quality school systems, right? If you want to go over to Western Springs, you want to go over to LaGrange, you want to go over to Clarendon Hills. It's a very, very concentrated search. They're not going to move to Plainfield when they want to live in Elmhurst. They're not going to move to Aurora when they want to be in Naperville. They're not going to be in Humboldt Park when they want to be in Bucktown. I mean, it's just, it's the mindset, and I think that the consumer got smarter after '07 and said, listen, this isn't gonna make me rich. I want something that I can enjoy and utilize for my kids, and this is the pocket I wanna be in.
We've talked a lot about city market versus western suburbs, but Lauren, as a suburban expert, can you share maybe some trends you're noticing that are different between northern suburbs, western and southern suburbs?
I'm going to piggyback off of what Jeff just said, because that is probably the biggest change we've seen in the last couple of years. Before COVID, even early COVID, this wasn't the case, but people came out looking for Western Springs, or people came out looking for Hinsdale. Like, I'm buying a house in Hinsdale, I'm buying a house in Western Springs, and rarely opened their search outside of that because there was a house in the area that they wanted to live that was available. In the last 3 years, the search has been expanded so far because people are saying, if I don't expand my search, I might not find a house for 2 to 3 years. So the Hinsdale buyer is now Western Springs, Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills, maybe Elmhurst. Let's look at it and see what our options are. I think what we're seeing, like the biggest transition in the market that was as crazy as it has been, in a little bit of softening, because I would say that the market has softened in the suburban market, is location. So to Jeff's point, if it's walkable, if it's walk to town and train, if it's in a good location, if it's at the right price, if it has the right fit and finish and you don't need to do work, it's flying off the shelf with multiple offers going for huge numbers. Sometimes we can't anticipate how big that number is. That said, if it's a C location, you can't compare it to an A location. People are being much more discerning about the location and not willing to pay up through the roof if they feel like the location isn't what they want it to be. Where there were a couple years where people were like, oh, well, LaGrange Highlands seems fine. That's close enough to LaGrange, right? What's the difference? That's not happening right now. They're waiting until the location serves them a little bit better. What we also are seeing, not just running the train line where it's LaGrange, Western Springs, Hinsdale, Clarendon Hills, we are seeing buyers look on the North Shore and the western suburbs. So that's another change. They're exhausting the western suburbs and saying, oh my God, I need my kids to be in school by the fall. I have to go look on the North Shore. So that is new. Most of the North Shore people weren't West suburban buyers before and vice versa. We're seeing a ton of that, and I don't anticipate that goes away because, again, whatever we want to call it, there aren't a lot of houses to buy.
All right, next question is for you.
Can I just comment?
Yeah.
So, today we have an inventory problem. You've already just mentioned numerous times that the suburb market is softening. This is the beginning and the end. Now, is it 2, 5, 10, 12 years away? Hold on a second. We're producing at a 1.8 rate of people, okay? We're not creating as much people, so maybe it's 10 years from now, you're not having it. You mentioned earlier that people want schools. It's like, well, less people are having kids, okay? That's a fact. It's the biggest problem we're running into is that we're not gonna be able to handle the production of America without producing enough people. It's actually like happening across the entire world right now. There's numerous things about this. My point is that the inventory, interior quality inventory, south of the train, fucking, you just know that location. Yeah, that's always gonna be an inventory problem. I'm not talking about micro-segmented, like phenomenal pockets.
I think we're
I'm
talking
talking
That's your
about
buyer today.
I think we're talking two
about
different markets.
On the whole, the inventory crisis as a whole. I'm saying that like there are trends going on. Right now, the trend is the suburbs as a whole. Tier A, Hinsdale location, Tier A, Elmhurst location. No matter what market it's gonna be, people are gonna live there, right? It's a sought-after building downtown. People always wanna live there because it's the best building. I'm talking more on a macro basis as a whole. That like what's happening here in the suburbs as a whole, okay, you're starting to see it soften because the market can't absorb all the people who are coming out here because there's not going to be as many people having kids. There's not going to be as many people that in the height of the pandemic, I had 23-year-old bros that were making $10 million working at Citadel buying single-family homes because they want to live in the city. How many of those guys are out here buying now? I don't have it. They all went on the back down in the city. So again, my point is there's a lot of buyers that were displaced during the height of the pandemic, and as we're seeing more boomerang buyers come back, we're seeing more offices get called back to work, that's going to drive people to the city, which means if you have 100 buyers and 80 of them are buying the suburbs, only 20 were buying downtown, you may now have only 50 buyers buying the suburbs and 50 buyers buying back downtown. That's going to be the difference, I think, in the future. You can call me wrong or not. I had the same conversation about Florida and Texas about 2.5 years ago. It's on record. We'll see what happens.
I'm not going to stop the debate that's going on because this question does kind of loop back in, but it's for you, Jeff, so you get to start. Can you tell us a little bit about the boomerang buyers? Why are people moving into the city and why are people leaving? I think we talked a little bit about return back to office. And then how are you positioning value to those clients differently?
City clients or?
Yeah, people.
Okay.
Why are people moving in? Why are people leaving?
Well, I think a lot of people. All right, this is tough. So we had I'll use perfect examples, right? We had somebody that was in the suburbs, moved downtown, got downtown, pandemic hit, didn't like the city, moved back out to the suburbs, right? I think with this COVID thing, it's thrown everybody for a loop, as you guys probably all know. I mean, my brain hasn't been right for 5 years, so I don't know. I mean, but you really have to track it. I think there is some boomerang and people want to be in the city. I tell clients all the time, I said, listen, I think it's a little overdone with the news reporting in the city. I'm in downtown all the time. Have I been held up? Have I been accosted? Have I been,
You carry a gun.
have I seen anything happen? No. I've been in the West Loop. I've been in the Gold Coast. I've been in River North. I don't have any issues. I still love the city. I still think the city's great. I do think that I had a call the other day from a client, and he said, hey, I want to take a look at this. I said, well, there's the biggest issue with the city right now, I think, and why the Gold Coast and the River North areas are probably impacted more is the crime. Don't get me wrong, but that's all news-based crime reporting. But I have a client that just sold a $5 million place in Southport Corridor, and he's looking to downsize, and he's sending me property after property after property. I go, well, that's $3,200 in assessments. That's $5,000 in assessments. That's a $120,000 tax bill. You got to understand. I mean, if we go back to pre-boom era, pre-07, taxes in the city were 1 to 1.25% of value. They're at 2% of value now. They're competing with suburban properties. I mean, 2%, yeah, I'll pay that in Elmhurst all day long because I'm getting schools, I'm getting safety, I'm getting everything else. But that's the biggest factor is the downtown market, if you ask me, is that you're paying at the Palmolive. We just signed up a new deal over there. It's $250,000 of carry before you actually purchase the property. So that's before you mortgage it, before anything else, between assessments and taxes. That's a huge problem. So people look at that and they go, I'd rather live in Lincoln Park, right? And I think that's what's really hurting the core. Not to mention, I don't want to get political and I don't want to, ruffle any feathers here. Until you get this current administration out, the city of Chicago is not coming back. West Loop's affected, River North's affected, and the Gold Coast is affected because we don't know which way is up in the city of Chicago right now.
Is there a question I'm supposed to answer?
No. No, I just wanted to see if anyone had, I figured somebody wanted to respond.
I have to say that we are still feeling the
That's good.
city movement. We are not having a lot of our clients move back to the city, but what we're seeing, and maybe this opens another conversation here, is they're not ready to commit to $250,000 of carry costs a year, but they might be interested in dabbling in renting in the city. So what we're seeing is like the kind of a transient mindset is people are selling to capitalize on what might be the best market they might see for the next 10 to 15 years. And not knowing what they're going to go to next, or not wanting to pay up if the market is changing. So they're saying, okay, I'll pay a huge number to go rent in the city. That sounds like fun. We'll see, and it's super non-committal. And if they don't love it after a year, they'll come buy something else. So we're seeing a lot of that, like this, buyers at all phases of their life kind of not committing to the next step forever, but renting maybe in the city or even renting in the suburbs.
Both of them made great points and are correct on both fronts of this. And we're starting to see, more and more of our clients that are here are moving back to this city. I said in the last 6 to 7 months, I've seen more empty nesters and downsized buyers than I had in the last 4 years combined. So we're at that beginning of the wave. I'm starting to see it more and more. Every single person that's coming into any of my listings above $1 million is somebody that's coming from the suburbs and buying, they're downsizing. It's every single one I've had. And so I'm starting to see it. You're starting to get showing after showing from it. And Jeff brings up a great point about the overhead costs. And I try to educate, and you're right on every single point he said. I agree with everything he said on this. But the one thing I try to do is educate the empty nesters on the overhead costs. Because, I own a house here in Hinsdale, and I'll tell you, like, my assessments on my condo were $3,500 a month. And I was like, fuck, that's a lot of money. Like, it sucks, And then I own a house, I'm like, fuck, that's cheap. It's like everything costs money. Like grass, they want to pull the flowers out and they fucking paint the fence, and you got this, and then there's a leak here, there's this there. It's like fucking $3,500. And then I'm the one hiring these people and fucking getting this guy to do that, and then I'm stressing out about getting a thing service and all this shit. It's like I didn't do anything. And it's like, so I joke around with my empty nest. I'm like, just out of curiosity, you got a big house? Like, yeah. I'm like, how big is it? 7,000 square feet. Okay. You don't heat that thing, right? Oh, you do? What you eat though? It's got to be at least $500 a month, right? Yeah, it goes there. You got a grass? You cut that thing? What's that? What's the lawn? Does the lawn look like shit, or do you got it like nice? Because I know any good landscaper's like, $300-400 a month. Like that's like for a decent sized house. So if you got a nice house with your shit to look nice, good $1,000 a month. So now I'm at $1,500 without even batting an eye. Electric bill's probably easy $1,000 during high season, right? So now we're at $2,500. I haven't even touched anything else. I'm like, if we added all your shit and you're rich, you're probably spending a minimum of $5,000 a month maintaining the house. Guess what? Guess what your cost is here? It's $3,500. Here's the best part. You want your filter changed? Hey, Steve, come on up. It's done. You don't do shit, okay? It's all done for you. So what's the cost of your life worth? And when people you put it like that, people are like, that actually makes a lot of sense. But the biggest problem for empty nesters coming to the city in the markets you guys work is the sticker shock. Because you read this at $3,500 a month, and I get this all the time, and I agree with you, because like even I felt the same way until I finally owned, and this is the first home I've ever owned, I'm just being honest. And I was like, holy fuck, this is a lot of money. Like I didn't anticipate all these costs, And I think that's what you have to do, and if you have clients that are looking to buy downtown and they do bring up the assessments as you explain it to them. Now the mismanagement of the taxes and our current administration, we've got 2 years left, so counting down the days.
Well,
I don't know if that was.
Hello? To your point, no, I completely agree, and obviously, we built a house in Elmhurst about 7.
Sorry.
We built the house about 7 years ago in Elmhurst, and we did new construction, gut rehab one before that, did 2 in the city. So I understand, the costs are gonna be the costs. I think it's also just the mentality of the potential
100%.
buyer, right? Especially in Florida right now, like I have a client that's in Florida, they own a beautiful house on the water, got a boat dock, got everything else, and they're like, yeah, we're thinking about going to a condo. I go, it's gonna drive you crazy. He's like, why is that? I go, because you like to control things. And so you're gonna get into this HOA. The HOA is gonna make decisions based on building improvements, tuck pointing, facade work, window replacement, etc. And you have no control. At least with your single family home, you have control as to what you do, when you do it, and how you do it, whereas the HOA. And then you got people that say, listen, I want this HOA running everything. I want to lock the door and leave and not have to worry about anything. So I think it's also the persona of the individual. So you kind of have to explore both options. Going back to my other client that we're talking about, we're looking at single family homes to downsize to, and we're looking at condos. And then we're going to kind of take both of those and go, what do you like better? And then take it from there. So it's a big persona issue too.
Agree.
Can I steal that back? I'm sorry.
Okay, you guys can just share that one
got a
with me
mic
for
issue.
sorry about that.
No.
Okay, we are on to our last topic, and I think one thing that I just want to say, segueing into the last topic, which is standing out and staying on top, because these are all top producers and they have been for a while. But if you're a newer agent in this room, or younger, or newer in your career, I feel like the one thing that I'm getting is you got to know your shit. And this is what you're up against. So, and I know that if you're not working with 10 buyers a month, you probably have plenty of time to be educating yourself and learning your market super well, so that when you're going up against Jeff Proctor on a listing, you might stand a chance. So I appreciate you guys sharing all of that knowledge. But okay, first question in this topic for Matt. There's a reason some names stay at the top of production lists every year, yours being one. What are you doing differently that others aren't?
I think actually first and foremost what you mentioned is education. I try to educate myself every single day. I never try to act like I know everything. I read stuff. I like talking to people that we disagree with so I can see other points of view, because it's not my way or highway. It's a good way to get different perspectives on why things work. And when I first got in the business, just like everybody else, I thought it would be super successful, super early. I was gonna make fucking millions of dollars, just fucking crush life, right? And then I was like, I lived at home till I was 28 in my parents' basement, and like fucking was broke. And it was terrible. But like what I realized, and what I like after like maybe 6 months in, is that I said that like, and I got in right as the bubble was starting to burst, is that I said that like, listen, I'm never gonna make money up front, but what I can be is the smartest guy in the room. So although I can't, be educated or have the most money, I can be educated in knowledge, right? So I took those first 4 years of my career and I didn't make a dollar, and what I did is I just studied the market. I would go into my office, and my father was an agent, I would just sit there and listen to how he talked. I'd just sit there for 8 hours a day, put a pot of coffee on, and just listen. I'd say, why'd you say this? Why'd you do this? Why is this done this way? I would do errands for him, I would do everything I could. I didn't get paid a fucking dollar, nothing, zero, zip. But what I wanted to try to do is just educate myself so that I knew that when the market turned, I would be the smartest person you ever met about the market. And still to this day, I try to educate myself on everything there is. And this way, when somebody calls you or tells you something, like, you can answer the question. When the pandemic first hit and the lockdown started, I remember everybody's freaking out. Remember they were saying real estate was going to drop 50%. I've never been busier my entire life than I was during the height of the pandemic. I didn't see we had another kid. I didn't see it. Like I was never home. Like a girl. Sorry. But like I was just, because my phone was, everybody wanted to know what was happening and what happened. So when people talk about like, oh, are you worried about a bad market? Are you worried about a good market? I'm never worried about anything, because if you're really good at your job, you will always be busy, because people are always going to want to go to the expert. And all of us up here, we try to educate ourselves constantly to make sure that we could stay ahead of the curve. And one thing that I'll always know is that 95% of agents, they won't care about education. They don't know the process. There's a lot of people I talk to that doesn't even know like how to like open up an email, write offers, understand like the basic stuff that's going on with the business. And I tell people all the time, it's like, listen, when the markets turn, if you don't position yourself as an expert, you may have done well by having a great network, but at a certain point that network's going to run out. And who's going to come talking to you if you couldn't answer basic questions like what a closing cost is? I get with agents all the time. I'm like, 500,000, 5,000 back. I'm like, okay, well that's 495,000. Like that's 500,000. I'm like, where do you think you just shake a tree and money just drops out of it? Like they don't even know what closing costs are. So the best thing that you can always do is try to read and take in as much as you can. And I'll tell you, if I was starting right now, I would literally brag, and I've said this a million times, I'll say it again. There's 42,000 agents in Chicagoland area. I would brag that I'm number 42,000. That's what I'm saying. Like I'm number 42,000, and I'm going to educate myself, and you're going to watch my journey along and see how I climb through the ranks. 6 months from now, I'll be maybe 39,000. Then a year from now, I'm like maybe 25,000. And you watch that journey coming up, and you just tell people how I've been educating myself to be better. And yeah, I'm not making any money yet, but 4 or 5 years from now, I will. This is the only industry in the world where people think that they can just get their license and be the biggest one they can be in the first day. Mm-hmm. Like there's no company, you can't go start being like an attorney, just all of a sudden be like the biggest partner in the law firm. In this business you can, and the biggest problem is that realtors just think that. They have these egos, you don't think you can start small. Like if I was starting off, I would go work for somebody that's the biggest agent, I would just get their coffee and fucking sit in the office all day. Mm-hmm. I'd do that for 2-3 years. I don't give a shit about making money. Because I know that I learn from the best. When people ask me information, I can actually give it to them. And I think a big problem with NAR is that we should make the barrier to entry much harder. And I think that if you're an agent, you cannot do a sale until the 4th year in. Meaning that you have to work underneath somebody else, and you can't ever handle a sale on your own until it's now your 5th year. Just like a college education. Because you're handling these people's biggest assets in life. And you got a guy that just got their license online, they have nobody else underneath them. That's why the lawsuit happened when 2020 hit. These people got licensed and there was nobody to talk to, so all this mismanagement happened. And it all comes back down to education. And the difference between the people that are winners and losers in this business are the winners are always trying to be better.
I agree. I totally agree with that, and I think that it is crystal clear, even if you're up against another agent, you can tell if they don't know what they're doing and what they're talking about, and everyone in the transaction can feel it. On top of just educating yourself about the market and the market you're selling in a real estate transaction and everything that goes into it, I also think, to your point, this is understand what's going on in the world. Understand what your clients are interested in. Understand how they're financing deals, what their business is, what they're interested in, because the more well-rounded you can be, the more they're going to think you're educated. So it's not just about real estate and understanding real estate. It's also about educating yourself on everything your clients are educated on.
Can I throw an off-script question at you, Lauren?
Yeah.
Do I have permission?
Please.
Okay. I think it's really interesting because you two both have teams, you have a company, and you're on a team, right? So I am a big fan of teams. I'm on a team, and I have been since the start, and I think a lot of agents are maybe, like, it takes a lot to swallow your pride and be like, it's okay, it doesn't have to be mine, and what are the benefits of that? So what keeps you on the team as a top producer and not from...
That's actually a great question, and I wish that more people ask that, because usually Dawn is sitting on the panel talking about her perspective as a lead, like these guys, but there's probably a lot of you who are like, maybe a team is right for me, maybe, and I think the biggest thing is I always say that my whole life I've been an athlete, I've been competitive, but I've always been Scottie Pippen, not Michael Jordan, and I feel very comfortable in that role, but I also knew that I wouldn't work just for anyone, and I don't work for Dawn. She's my partner, she's my mentor, she's my best friend, she's everything, but also I knew that there was no one better to learn from. In my first year in real estate, all I did was listen. To your point, I would go to the office, I would listen to what every agent said. I wish they all put it on speakerphone, and sometimes I thought, that was so dumb, I would never say that. But I learned. I was like, oh, I could tell that buyer or seller didn't respond well to that. Don't say that in that situation. But all I did was pay attention to what everyone else was doing. And then Dawn and I serendipitously met, and our visions totally aligned. And it was a moment of like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Do I want to do this? Do I want to build my own team? Do I want to build my own brand? And it was an unbelievable opportunity to be able to build my own self within a team. And I think that's unique. But I also think, like, speaking to team leads, that's what keeps our turnover minimal. Like, the ceiling's not, there's no ceiling as far as our capacity. And I have a team within a team. So I feel like we're a brokerage within a brokerage, and then I'm a team within a team. Like, I'm a lead for the Dawn McKenna Group, but there's 5 people that work with me in the western suburbs, and that's probably the best decision I made. I think it would have taken me probably 20 years to do what I did in 3 years, because I had the engine behind me. And that said, I also think you have to pick the right mentor, leader, team, because they all do it a little different.
Yeah, I'm glad that you shared that, because I feel like a lot of agents think, okay, I'm going to start with rentals, and then I'm going to become a buyer's agent, then I'm going to try to do more listings, and then build a team. Like, it's almost like corporate America, but you're such a testament to it doesn't have to be that way. That's the beauty of real
Totally,
estate.
yeah.
Going back to Matt's point, the training. So you take this exam in the real estate world. No offense, a lot of that stuff does not correlate to the day-to-day life of a real estate agent. It's good from some knowledge standpoint, don't get me wrong, but what we deal with day in and day out is completely off from what we just learned in the class, right? So yes, if you go to a commercial broker, CBRE, Jones Lang LaSalle, you're sitting underneath somebody for 2 to 3 years. You're sitting at a 50% split until you get to a certain point in terms of revenue or deal size, or 2 years hits, and then you go out on your own, right? My first job was CDW. I worked on a draw, right? Anybody know what a draw is? I'm sure you guys all do. It's something you got to pay back.
We know.
And, but you learned, right? Take those 2 years and learn. And going back into this, it's not only learning like closing costs and closing statements and finance and everything else, learn about construction. Understand construction. A cute bath and a cute kitchen is not the reason to buy a place. I promise you that. I'd rather take an ugly kitchen and horrible baths as long as the quality of construction's a lot better, right? So.
Go buy a house.
I mean, well, so, and I'll go back to a couple different examples. We just put together a $2 million deal in Elmhurst. We looked at two different, same size lots, two different builders within Elmhurst, and I go, this builder has about $150,000 to $200,000 more in upgrades, and the list price was $25,000 to $50,000 difference. I go, but he's doing blown-in insulation, he's doing an architectural shingle, he's doing an upgraded mechanical selection here, he's doing radiant heat, he's doing this, you know, and you could just name it. But if you don't know construction, not all these developers are created equal by any means. And you can literally have two houses listed at, you know, $2 million, and somebody could put $250,000 less in upgrades. And guess what's gonna happen? In 5 years, when that lower end builder comes, you got that house for 5 years, you're like, wait, I gotta start replacing windows? Oh yeah, you only had a 5-year warranty because you have a no-name window company versus a Marvin, right? Understand the construction, understand the finance, learn the industry. I think going back to this, and I'm older than you, I would have to anticipate. I would
How old
say
are
so.
you?
Yeah. So I'm 48, 23
Okay.
years, right? So I used to sit in the basement at Clybourne office, which is no longer there, and I would be there till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and I would just learn, right? When I first went to college, I was the only one with a computer. That's how crazy this is. When I was in high school, I was the only one with a cell phone. How fast have we come along? Watch out for AI. Watch out for construction trends. I was at Chicago Build Conference the other day. I mean, the construction trends right now are unbelievable in terms of what they're putting together. But you know why I went to Chicago Build? Because I wanted to learn, right? And we had our expo at the same time, and I was like, I want to go to that Build Conference actually a little bit more than our expo. But really understand the markets, understand the trends, understand the financing, understand the construction material, the build trends, everything else. Get as much information you have. You have everything at your fingertips. You have to learn, and don't fake it till you make it, because a lot of people, and still we probably see people in the business right now that are in for 5-10 years, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, you haven't learned anything. The biggest advantage and last piece, no offense to everybody, I love it when suburban people come down to the city, and I love when city people come out to the suburbs, because that's our best selling point. They have no clue where they're going, and they're chasing commissions. Don't chase commissions either. Only stick with markets that you know, and just increase your knowledge base. That's where I would go.
I have one final question for all three of you to answer, and just be prepared after that. We're going to open it up for Q&A, so be ready for that. Okay, last question, all three of you. I want to hear, what is the most important piece of advice that you've ever received?
I have two things, like in life, just do it. My dad used to always say it to me growing up, and it's like, stop thinking about it, stop, just go act. And it makes a huge difference. But with regards to real estate, I have to say, if anyone's heard Dawn talk, she always talks about how she had an assistant before she had a babysitter, and she hires help, and she hires the right help. And it took me a minute to swallow that pill. I don't think I'd say I was a micromanager as much as I was probably cheap, but as soon as you hire the right help, your life changes. So if you hire the right people and surround yourself with amazing people, everything else happens.
I have two as well. Number one is people tell you you can't do something. That's one of the biggest motivational things for me, and best piece of advice is when people tell me that I can't do something. I remember my whole career, my whole life, people told me I could never do anything. When I was a kid, every teacher said I was too stupid, I couldn't do stuff because my reading skills and my learning capabilities were just not there. And they told me I couldn't do it. And I remember when I took the company downtown, and in 08 and 09, I remember, not to bash on that properties, but I would meet all these properties agents, and they told me, you can't make it down here. You're from the south side, you can't be done, you can't make it. You know, they would try to steal my clients in front of my face. In front of my face, they try to do it. They'd be like, this guy can't make it. And I'd be like, well, fucking, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And like, you know, we expanded out here, and people tell us now that we can't make it out here. It's like, well, I don't know. The city's like the kingdom, and this is like a territory. So to me, I'm not really intimidated when people tell me I can't do something. Nothing motivates me more in life than when somebody tells me I can't do something. So when somebody gives you the advice that you can't do this, or you can't, you know, make this sale, or you can't make this happen, get creative. Figure out a way to do it. Like, everything's been done before, and if it hasn't been done before, then be the first person to do it, right? Like, don't be intimidated by that. And that's a big problem that people have in this business. My second best piece of advice is that Are you a good guy trying to be bad, or are you a bad guy trying to be good? And that's a good question to ask yourself when you think about this, is if you're a good guy trying to be bad or a bad guy trying to be good. Now, my whole life I've always been a good guy that had to be bad, because I've been surrounded by people that were bad, and I always knew what was right and what was wrong. And unfortunately, the good guys always lose. So I had to be bad to protect myself from the bad guys. And in this industry, one thing I've realized a lot is that, I hate to say it, but probably like 95% of realtors are bad. They're bad people, they lie to you, they cheat, they steal, they do whatever they can. You know, if I get another passive-aggressive text where you're sending some bullshit to me, and then I snap on you, like, I've never been talked to like that, it's like, well, I don't believe in passive, I just go right to aggressive. So, you know, like, my point is that, like, it's not too late to be a good guy. And I hate to say it, but like, most people I meet that don't take the job seriously, not you guys and people who do a lot of business, but people who don't take the job that seriously are really just like, not good people, they're not pleasant to deal with. They make deals 10 times harder than they have to be. They lie, they cheat, they steal about everything. And then sometimes I gotta come along and be the asshole, because it's like, listen, if you're going around doing this to other people, the general consumer is gonna see 10 of you and only 1 of me. So they're gonna think we suck at our jobs. And it's never too late to be like, listen, like, I can change my ways and not lie and not cheat and not steal and not do fucking bullshit to these people so you try to take advantage of them. And that's why I always have to ask myself is, are you a good guy trying to be bad or a bad guy trying to be good? You think about that.
That's good.
100% agree. Be honest, be truthful. You know, just talk to your client direct, right? I mean, I always say I'm full disclosure. You're going to get exactly what I feel about the market, about the property, why you should or should not buy. I mean, there's a lot of times where retail clients know. And they're like, but I really like the kitchen. And I'm like, it's a horrible property, right? But going back to Matt's point, and you know, I think at the end of the day, you have your reputation that you have to uphold, and that will be the longer term plan of your career. So if you kill that reputation within the first 5 years by chasing a commission, maybe telling a client to pay too much for a deal, you got to understand, like, these clients are coming back. We're 100% referral. We do not pay for leads. We do not go online. Everything is 100% referral, and we lean on our network for all of our business. So if I screw over, or which hopefully has never happened, if I were to screw over a client, guess what? I'm not getting anything back for them. And then also be honest with your clients. So like right now with this inflated market, one of the big things I say to clients, I go, you're overpaying, you're paying a premium, right? And I want to tell you that now, because the market is that way, and I totally understand, and you're going to have to move. But when you come back to me in 5 years or 3 to 5 years, everyone says it's their forever home, but I go, you'll call me in 3 years, don't worry about it. And I go, and you're losing a couple $100,000. We had this conversation from day one, right? So be upfront, be honest, understand the market, and you know, keep your reputation. Because if you lose your reputation and you lose your credibility and your trust, it's tough to regain. So keep those networks and keep positive relationships. I think there's just a lot of stuff, I don't know, over this last 5 years that I've really gotten into. It's like, just be nice, right? Just be nice. Say hi to everybody. I'll talk to anybody, anywhere. It doesn't matter what tier you're at in the system, whether you're rich, whether you're poor. You can always learn something from somebody. If somebody needs help, help them out, right? I always tell agents all the time that I just first meet, if you ever need anything, reach out. I'm happy to help you. I don't know them from anybody else, but I'm just trying to give them a little bit of advice, try to give them a little bit of help. Be nice and keep your reputation.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Anybody have questions? Just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you. Mike.
Thoughts on dual agency?
Thoughts on dual agency?
Do you want to, we could all take a turn.
Yeah, I mean, I think dual agency is okay in my book as long as you make a full
Know what you're
disclosure.
doing.
Like for me, it's like I always tell people, like, if you tell me something, I can't tell them something. If they tell me something, I can't tell it to you. It's that simple. It's like, and like, I can't be biased. When you say like, well, what do you think they would do? Like, you kind of talk to them. It's like, you can't do it. And it's hard for a lot of people to be able to walk that barrier. One line that I always use to people, and Jeff, you just kind of talked about this, which is a great point, is that like, I'm not gonna ruin my like reputation for a $500,000 sale. Like, even if it's a $2 million sale, like, yeah, it's a good chunk of money, but it's not gonna change my life in the next 50 years, right? What will change my life is if you buy a $2 million property you thought I fucked you over because it was a dual agency, right? And now like you hate me, they hate me, and I get nothing out of that. The whole referral thing on both sides is burned. I think if you're going to do dual agency, you have to take a step back, say, can I actually do what's best for both clients, and can I remain unbiased? And I think if you can, I think if you're a good agent, you can do that. You've been around. But I do think for a brand new agent that comes in there, I would refer it out personally. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
We do a lot of dual agency, but I agree that you need to know what you're doing and not put yourself in a sticky situation. If you don't feel comfortable with it, you should absolutely pass. But if you do and you know what you're doing, it also works, but you definitely need to know what you're doing and when to have an attorney step in and when to step back. But remind your client, this is not worth my reputation. I've explained to you, I can't tell you that, because a lot of them will try to push you.
Yeah. We don't do a ton of dual agency. I mean, we've certainly done that, but once again, same thing. It's like, we've been in dual agency situations where you have to disclose it up front. And if they're not comfortable with it, then you need to refer them out, right? And you just need to get it off your plate and move on. But you also can't disclose things. You can't manipulate the deals, obviously, into your favor, where it would be easy to do. I mean, we see a lot of agents that really should be sued over dual agency. There's an agent in the suburbs and there's an agent in the city, and I won't name names, but we asked them to go see some of their properties, and they're like, well, I only show them to my clients. I go, well, that's illegal. We're already starting right there. So,
What's the name?
Let's just go back, be honest, be upfront, full disclosure, as I said. You're always going to get that from me, and explain to them the details of dual agency and see how they want to approach it, and then take it from there.
Any other questions? Dean?
Team building. You all have teams. What do you look for when someone comes to you? What traits do you look for someone who's worthy enough to be on either one of your teams? For all of you, questions for all of you.
Somebody that just wants to learn, I mean, and is willing to sit down and do the legwork to get new business, right? I think we're at such this social media $1 million listing, impasse right now that it's like I said, fake it till you make it, right? I'd rather sit down with somebody in the office for 2-3 hours and literally just start filing through systems, learning about, taxes and learning about different properties and property history and construction and everything else. Somebody that's looking to learn and, is professionally put together would be nice. We have a really good team and they're all looking to learn, and I think that's the biggest thing. As long as they're looking to learn and looking to have a long-term career in this business, I think, I don't know, new agents, I don't know what the numbers are, and maybe you do, Matt, but the first 6 months, I mean, I would say that 60% of them don't carry the license after 6 months because they're not making any money. And I tell my new agents, I'm like, it's going to take you a year or two for you to make any sort of significant money, if money at all. So you got to be in for the long haul. You're not going to get rich overnight, although everything online and social media and $1 million listings says you can. And then we're in a very competitive market. We're not an LA market. We're not a New York market. We're not a Naples market. We're not a Miami market. Like we're competing day in and day out for $1 million deals. I mean, the numbers aren't huge, so somebody to learn that would be huge.
Do you want me to answer the same question? So I can speak on behalf of the group, Dawn McKenna Group, and our micro team out in the western suburbs. We actually have a lot of athletes on our team, but I don't think it's the athletes. I think it's the mindset and the mentality of an athlete who has been able to be knocked down and humiliated and gets back up and doesn't care and keeps moving forward. I always say what we do is not brain surgery. Nothing we do is complicated, but finding someone with the right attitude and the right mindset is a huge challenge. I feel like there's a lot of entitled people in the world across the board, and people who are willing to work and grind is a rarity. And that, like, to me, the right attitude is the first stepping stone, and if you have the right attitude, all the rest will come. I also think, like, the team symmetry, depending on how your team works, is critically important, and enjoying the time you're spending with the people that you're spending this time with is very important, and being able to maximize each other's potential. So it's really a mindset and an attitude more to me than any skill set.
Yeah, I think the big problem is that a lot of people just hire to hire. You get really busy, like I gotta take somebody on, so you take somebody on, and you get like a shitty team, and then like everybody hates you. So like, make sure you hire right. Like, that's a big thing. It's like hire right. For me, like, work ethic is huge. I count days off at the office. I say this all the time. Like, you have to work every single day up till 6:30 at night. Weekends, you have to work till 4. You take too many days off, too many half days, you get fired. Like, and it sounds crazy, but we have the only job in the world where there's no accountability. Like, if my wife's a teacher. If my wife just didn't show up for 4 days just because she was like, fucking, I want to catch up on some Netflix, like, she'd get fired. Like, she would just get fired. But in this industry, you can just do that. Just don't show up. You know, and then you bitch, my numbers are down, blah, blah. It's like, you went out to dinner every day this week, this month. Like, what do you think's gonna happen? Most people only see places 5 to 7 o'clock. So, but you're never around to show them. So, like, how do you think you're gonna succeed? So, like, what I try to look for is somebody who has a really good work ethic, okay? The second thing is if anybody ever mentions money on the first meeting, I automatically don't hire them. Because if you're hungry for money, then I don't want you. I don't want anybody that's money hungry. I want somebody that's hungry to be the best at what they do. And guess what? If you're the best when you do, money will come, it's an accessory. But don't bring it up to me, I don't want to talk about it, I don't give a shit about it. You sound like a douchebag when you talk about how much money you got. Nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares, okay? So like all we care about is like, I want to make sure that you're the best at what you do. If you're the best at what you do, guess what? People will pay you. If you're not, then you fucking suck. Get out of here, okay? The third thing I look for is undying loyalty. You gotta draw blood and put it in a jar for us. No, but this is, and you mentioned it, it's a very competitive business. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I don't want somebody that's not loyal to the group, right? You have to be for each other. We're a team. It's a team. Most people who start these teams, it's a bunch of individuals.
Yeah.
This is a team. You guys ever watch sports? When the team that wins the best, it's because they have the best team. You put 3 divas on a team, they suck. Because they're all trying to be the best, they're all trying to be number 1, they're not passing the ball, they're not playing together. I'm creating a team. And if you're not willing to work with the team, if you're not willing to be a team player, if you're not willing to eat shit some days because you gotta do something for the team, you know, sometimes we gotta fall on the sword for the team. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're not a team player and I don't want you. So those are the 3 main things that I personally look at. And I've made a lot of mistakes when I hired, and I've learned a lot over my years of trying to do this, but my best advice for anybody who's trying to start a team is figure out who you are as a person. And who do you want to surround yourself with? Because like you said, you're going to be with these people a lot. But also set the right guidelines and make sure that you attract the right people. Because if you have the best team, you will grow into, you know, a Jeff or a DMG group or whatever, because you put the time into making sure that you have a team that reflects who you are as a person.
Can I bounce back? I really want to tag on to the end result, and this kind of goes back to your question with like, how did I decide to join a team? I think before you start a team or you join a team, you take a long, hard look in the mirror and you look at yourself because you reflect who you are. So again, you probably are going to attract similar people to yourself, and if you have a great work ethic, people are going to have a great work ethic around you, and if they don't, they're gonna disappear. So I do think there's a big element to growing a team or a business makes you really look inside yourself and be a better person.
Last question. I think I saw Nick's hand up.
Sorry, I'm Italian, I'm a little loud. Well, first off, thank you guys so much for pouring into all of us. This is absolutely amazing. What is the one thing that you're implementing now to set your quarter 1 up for 2026?
One thing that we're implementing now to set you up for success in Q1.
Do you want to? You start it because my answer is
we really look back on
know.
Q4 to prepare for Q1. A big thing I send out to all my quarterlies is I literally ask all of our clients, you know, what did we do wrong this year for you that you think we could do to improve on in the future? And I tell people, like, listen, I'm a big boy. I can take constructive criticisms. If you don't like me as a person or you don't like anything about me, like, tell me. You know, maybe it's something I can fix, or maybe if, you know, I swear too much, it's just not going to change. It is what it is, okay? But like, my point is I try to take that and I try to learn from it, okay? So like, you know, there's a few things that we've tried to, that we've gotten feedback from that we're now implementing to next year. So what we did is like, we took on 2 new assistants, and Jamie, shout out to Jamie, our director of operations over here, she's been training them to make sure that they're prepared that when January 2nd hits, because for us, January 2nd hits, January's my best month every year, like it takes off like a rocket ship, that we're prepared. I also know that January is going to be crazy busy, and I don't have enough people to prepare for next year's wave of inventory because we've lost 3 people this year. So I've hired 3 people to implement them to be able to get to, you know, be able to handle the business when we're coming next year. And the third thing is I'm trying to embrace AI, although I think AI is kind of like a little bit of a buzzword right now that can't really do anything. But we are, for the first time, looking into like virtual assistants that are implementing AI to take advantage of showing. So let me give you a quick example, which I think is going to be a big thing for the future. Is like, our biggest problem that we run into is it's Saturday night, it's 9:30 at night. we get somebody who sends me 6 properties and says, I want to see these at 9 a.m. tomorrow, okay? And that happens every single Saturday for 6 months straight, and Sunday, okay? And it burnt out one of my assistants. And I said, well, how can we like, make this not happen? Because we can all sit there and say, well, I'm about balance, I'm not gonna do it. That's great. Like, if you wanna run in the $10 to $20 million crowd, you could do that. But if you wanna be like truly great, you're gonna have to come into these roadblocks. So what I thought to myself is like, okay, well, let's create a system. So if somebody gives this to us, the AI will pretty much map it out for us. As the appointments get confirmed, you'll get a push notification understanding it's done. And while you sleep, these appointments are getting confirmed, okay? And what we're doing is we're hiring a virtual assistant in a different country that's gonna be able to do that for us. So that on Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights, because our busiest time is pretty much like 6 a.m. till 8 a.m. on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and then 6 p.m. to like 11 p.m. on those times as well, is having somebody else work while we sleep. And that's a big problem that I've had, is that like when you have a lot of business, everybody wants what they want now, and a lot of people will say, well, then I just won't show them. Well, guess what? Somebody else will. Everybody in this room can say, like, hey, I was working with them for 6 months, I love them, but I had a wedding shower, and I couldn't go there, and they walked in an open house about a $2 million property. And we can all say, well, that never happens to me. Bullshit. Happens to everybody, okay? So how do we make sure that we don't lose those, right? Because you might lose 10 of those a year, that's 20 million bucks. So trying to anticipate what can we do when we're super busy to compensate for that so we don't lose any opportunities going in next year. And we really try to reflect on that. And I suggest everybody in here, look at what you've done wrong this year. Ask your clients what they think better of you. Don't say, what did I do great? Say, what did I do bad that you would like to see me do better? And then figure out how to implement that as you go into next quarter.
I also always ask any client, if you don't get a listing or if you lose a client, we've all been there, ask them why. I ask every single person, if you don't mind me asking, can you give me any feedback? I'm always looking to get better. Why did you decide to move a different direction? It's super helpful, and I've gotten some of my best referrals from those people because they respect the fact that you're trying to get better. Some people are super uncomfortable and they don't want to talk about it, but again, I'm not one of those passive-aggressive people. I'm aggressive-aggressive.
Did anybody ever tell you they hated you?
They never said I hated you. No, but they have said you were
neither.
direct.
I'm asking for a friend.
Not hate. I haven't gotten that, but it's early in this career.
Laura and I had some good conversations, so it's,
Yeah.
Go back to your roots a little bit. I think this year, and since COVID, has been kind of trying for us all, right? So, I mean, go back. But we're implementing a lot of new software. We're trying new things out. This AI thing's really big. I just implemented a new software that's all AI platform. What it does is it just scrubs data, right? I mean, I have a lot of data up here, but I can't sometimes articulate that to the team. So we're implementing new CRM platforms. We're implementing an AI software that accompanies that CRM platform. We're really just kind of, I mean, this AI thing is really a loaded system here. I mean, I've been talking to people. But how can you use it to your advantage, right? We did some new videos where we took like 10 different videos and put them in AI and they made like a highlight reel, right? I've never been huge on social media. Matt does a great job with it and probably has, influenced me to do a little bit more. I kind of avoided it for a long time, so now I'm getting back into it. But you can use AI for this stuff. So, but also just go back to your roots. I mean, just sit down, go back to that office in the basement and sit there with your computer and just work, right? I mean, I love the idea of, you're working until 6:30 and you're working until the weekends. I think I've been in this business for so long where I try to minimize that till about noon on Saturday, Sundays. It doesn't always happen, but when your kids get older, you also want to spend some time with them. My son plays hockey. So it's a very, very delicate balance in terms of the way. You definitely need your family time, you need your friends' time. I want to go play golf right now, just looking outside, watching the lawnmowers go. But, go back to the roots. And like Matt said, what went wrong this past year? Obviously, this last year was very frustrating for a lot of people because you were losing out on deals, multiple bid situations. Go back to your roots and figure out how you can improve.
Can I say something about grinding? I think we're all equally working hard and we're grinding. One thing I have, what's that?
Smarter, not harder.
Well, no, I'm not saying smarter, not harder. I'm saying if I'm addicted to anything, it would be work, probably. But I've also learned in time, again, talking about hiring the right people, that I am a better mom, I'm a better realtor, I'm a better wife if I balance. And what I mean by balance is not I don't take the weekends off. But again, I've hired people and I've created a system where when we're on, we're all sprinting. We're all sprinting always. This market's sprinting. So learn how to sprint, but you're running an endless marathon. So understand when you need to pass the baton and understand when your teammate needs to pass the baton, because that's what keeps you at a high level always. So I feel like I'm doing, 10 times the volume I've ever done, but I'm feeling less overwhelmed than ever, but it's because I pass the baton at the right time, and I teach my team how to pass the baton when they need to pass the baton to keep them in the game. So we rotate who's on the weekends, meaning there's a human being that you're going to talk to at 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday night if you need to schedule a showing for 7 o'clock the next morning, but it's not the same human being every weekend because, again, you're going to get burned out. So I think it's misleading to say that real estate is work-life balance, but if you can understand when you tap in and when you tap out, and same for your team, I think that does wonders.
Thank you again so much for everything and for setting me up for the perfect closing. If you're not working with a loan officer that is making your life easier and making your job easier, that's why we are here. So A&N's focus is, first of all, the client experience, because what's the point in us having this fancy event if we can't follow through and get your deal closed and make your life easier? However, we do really care about our community, our real estate community, and making our real estate partners look like superstars, okay? So that's part of it too. So if you're an A&N loan officer, can you please stand up really quick? Okay, well, they're outside. But if you're not working with an A&N loan officer, this is your sign to talk to somebody, because we'd love to not only bring more events to you like this, but work with your clients and make your jobs easier. So thank you again for being here. Thank you guys so much for your time this morning. What an amazing panel.